Call the Audit and Control Committee meeting to order this morning. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. If everyone's had an opportunity to read the minutes from 4/2023, I'd accept a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second the motion, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next order of business is privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here this morning to speak to the privilege of the floor? Not seeing any, we'll move on to our first order of business is a discussion of the local law introduction 623, a local law amending local law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees, RE payroll manager for the Department of Finance.
Good morning, Kitty Crow, Director of Finance. This payroll manager position was included in the 2023 budget, and just to refresh your memory, we had added this position, and there was another position in our insurance office which we removed from our staffing plan, and we had another purchasing agent position which was in 2022 only half of the year, and then a full year in 2023. So the net result in our FTEs was an increase of a half of a person. So just wanted to refresh your memory on that, and we can let you know that this was included in the budget. The reason for the position too is to right now, aside from the regular processing and payroll, there's other payroll related duties that are kind of spread out in the department between myself, Todd Button, Janelle Hansen. And we really need somebody that is focused on those other items, and does take away a considerable amount of my time and Todd's in processing things like retiree cash out payments, our weekly payment of health savings account contributions. We also need somebody who can really focus on policy and procedures related to time and attendance. Occasionally, maybe not even occasionally, often we have, maybe a question of how some time should be recorded, or there's an interpretation of the contract that needs to be discussed with HR. And, when those things come up, they're kind of out of the blue and can sometimes be time consuming. And so having a payroll manager focus on these sorts of tasks would be a real benefit, and allow Todd and myself to really to focus on the other things that are more critical to our main positions.
Thank you. Anyone have questions?
Kitty, just one question. Okay, so we don't have a payroll manager in effect right now?
Correct.
Okay, what we have is we have a number of people doing different functions, such as the retirees, the time and attendance, and whatever. So you think this person could focus on those areas?
The areas that I just mentioned, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kitty, is this a budgeted position?
Yes,
It's
this
in your
was,
budget.
as I mentioned when I started out, this was included in the 2023 budget. So the dollars are there. The position in terms of our total FTEs is included in the budget.
I'm in favor of this.
In your FTEs, Kitty, increased by 1/2 or whatever?
In total, in terms of what we submitted and you reviewed during the budget hearings, yes.
1/2.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions, comments?
And it's just, I'm sorry, just for clarification. So this specific title wasn't a title that we already had, and that's why you have the local law before you to actually create the title officially. But we did include a slot for it in the budget.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You worked with personnel to come up with the title?
Yes, yeah. So we submit, the normal process for that is to submit a duty statement to the Human Resources Department. They review that and then they classify the management range or otherwise, whatever level position they deem it to be through their regular processes.
Because Kitty, I'm reluctant to create new positions as a rule, but I think in this case, I think it's probably warranted. So I will be in favor of this.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move on to our number 2 item on the
Okay.
agenda is we don't need to vote on local law, correct?
That's true.
So we don't need
Can
to
I
vote
just,
on it.
I just had just a comment for next month's meeting. You may be aware that we've been talking about a fiscal staffing restructuring, and I do intend to present to you our kind of final version of our organization structure that we'll be moving toward. And as a result, there is one additional title that will need to be created. So another similar local law, I hope, will be coming to you next month. The net effect is not to increase the total number of positions, but there is another new title that we're going to propose. So just wanted to give you a heads up for next month.
Thank you. Our first proposed resolution today is to confirm reappointment Director of Human Resources. Is anyone here to speak to that today?
Patrick.
Good morning. Patrick Slagle, County Attorney. The resolution before you is to reappoint Deborah Mikowski as the Human Resource Director. Deborah is currently filling out the remaining position, I believe, of 2 HR directors ago. So this would be her first 6-year term. So I would encourage support of Deborah. I think she's been in front of you several times. Has been doing an excellent job. She works well with all different department heads. Currently, within her first year, she's negotiating 2 different union contracts, handling various different HR issues. And so I think she's a wonderful asset to the county, and I would encourage the support of her.
Comments, questions, committee?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. She does a fantastic job, and it's really good for the county that she's in a position. So.
Any other comments, questions?
Dan, just one question. Patrick, so this is a new 6-year term. She's not just filling the remainder of the last director's term?
This would be her
For a 6-year
her term.
Her
Yes.
term. And this is for 6 years.
Yes.
Thanks.
I agree with Mr. Harmon. She's been a good asset, and I've enjoyed working with her with some of the things that we've done. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next resolution is setting salary for internship positions. Anyone here to speak to that today?
Should have just stayed.
Give me that easy. Yeah. Patrick Slagle, County Attorney.
Jennifer Rissell, Senior Personnel Tech for Human Resources, representing Debbie Mikowski.
So the resolution before you is to raise the internship rate where it currently sits at, I believe, $927 is what
That's $927 is what is in the budget.
is what's in the budget.
Currently $9.
$9 to $15 to match minimum wage. There's really 2 types of internships. There's a traditional internship, which is often job shadowing, where it's unpaid. There's executive policy bulletin out there that describes the process to go through that. That's often your high school students, your college age students who come just shadow or unpaid. This is a different type of position. It's a non-graded position through CSEA, and it's really where someone is actually being paid to produce a product for their interning.
Yeah.
Do,
That's accurate.
we haven't updated this since 2016. Do we intend to hire some interns?
We
That's-
currently have 4 positions in the refill process, 2 in the public defender's office and 2 requested for public health. And there is 1 of those positions currently filled. The other 3 are unfilled currently.
So they signed on to the $9 an hour.
She returned from last year and was really looking for more of the experience.
The hope is obviously if we match minimum wage, you'll get more applicants willing to serve in these positions. And it's a good introduction too to the county government is they serve these internships. Hopefully they continue to come back and can move into a more permanent position.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Questions, comments,
I just-
Tom?
I just have one question, Mr. Chair. What is the current minimum wage? I don't really know what that is personally.
Is it at 15 at this point, or is it?
Or not quite.
What was the question?
Or 15,
What's the current
17.
Current minimum wage.
1420.
14.20.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you for that. Yeah, they need a raise.
You applying?
I may. I'm retired.
Yeah, we do. We don't get. Any other questions, comments?
Thanks, Dan.
Sorry, I was running a couple questions through my head, but I answered them. So, any no other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next resolution is calling a public hearing pursuant to County Law 268 upon a proposal to reduce infiltration and inflow into the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District.
Good morning.
Morning.
Matt Olbeck, Director of North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. So I believe this is just procedure to call for the public hearing. But it would be, we have a serious infiltration problem in the North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. This project would take care of, would consist of addressing the inflow mostly in the village of Mayville system that was constructed in the 1950s, with some repairs to some of the pump stations that have problems with infiltration also. The project cost is estimated at $5,480,000. The district's looking to fund the project through EFC hardship loan. They're also going to hopefully apply for a 25% WIA grant. If the grant is not received, they plan to still proceed with the loan, I believe. And if that's the case, the rates would go from $540 a year per user to $700 per year, which is a $160 per year increase. If the grant is received, it would be from $540 up to $660, so $120 a year. The district also looked at applying for congressional community project funding in the amount of $3 million. Step 1 of the process, we made it through. Congressman Nick Langworthy did pick the project. So the engineers tell me that's the hard step. So that's kind of where we're at.
Committee questions, comments? What type of infiltration? Is it, what's the problem?
So there's clay tile.
Yep.
So there's several joints. So most of the project would be slip lining.
Mhm.
There's 2,200 feet of open dig replacement. And then rehabbing some of the manholes that are leaking.
Mm-hmm. So just plugging up holes that in the current system, really.
Yeah.
Just upgrading it from, when was it installed again?
Most of it was in the 1950s,
Okay. Old infrastructure.
old infrastructure.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Please.
On the INI study, what kind of time frame for you to like do this whole INI study? I know in the village of Silver Creek, when I was a trustee, it was like 4 phases, and it's still stretched out now over 5 years for a
Right.
small village. So I'm just looking at this entire project. This might be a 15 or 20-year project. I mean, that's how fast they move. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can't answer that.
Okay.
The INI study took 2 years, I believe, in the village. They're kind of breaking it down in sections.
study. Study's done, yeah, but if you start
The project.
yeah,
itself.
that's a forever project.
Not, this one shouldn't take that long.
I speak from experience.
Speaking from experience,
Yes. I'm just throwing it out there.
they should be able to do it in 1 year.
Oh, fantastic.
It's that on record, Pierre.
We'll quote them.
That started today.
Cast in place slip lining goes very quickly.
Well, just 5 years in Silver Creek, wasn't too bad. That's the North County.
Hard ground up
You
there.
got the wrong
That's Silver
contract.
That's Silver.
I'm all for the re-slip lining and keeping up old infrastructure, because if we don't ever fix the problem, it's worse and worse. Obviously, you're going to let all the users know about this rate increase through different various meetings and informative letters and such, right? So people will know about it.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next resolution is confirming user charges South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer Districts. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, look, I already have one. Tom sent me one.
Good morning, Tom Walsh, Director of the South and Center Stock Lake Sewer District. I'm here today to confirm the user charges for Phase 1 West Side Sewer Extension of the South Chautauqua Lake Sewer District. The handout you have in front of you is just a little bit of a prior to construction and our budget. Following the map and plan report, the anticipated project cost was $16.8 million, with grant funding at approximately $8 million and a 30-year 0% interest loan that will be paid back by the users of the Phase 1 West Side Sewer District. That's a 0% 30-year loan. The anticipated rate for the new users was $1,000 or less. $1,000 a year or less was established by the New York State Comptroller. Page 2, today's construction, we are more than 90% complete currently. The actual project cost is coming in just over $15 million, which is almost $2 million less than the anticipated cost. The grant funding is based on the overall project cost, so that will be reduced slightly to $410,000. But the actual 30-year loan of $7,535,366, that will be paid back by the users. The proposed rate for new users is $930 a year. That's a rate of $232.50 a quarter. And that number, as on the next page, is calculated by $576 would be the infrastructure cost for the phase one customer only. And the operation maintenance cost is paid by all South and Center Chautauqua Lake sewer districts of $354 annually. So that is the total annual rate of $930 per EDU. EDU is is an equivalent dwelling unit. So any residence that meets the EDU would pay $930. So if you had a 2-family house, that's 2 EDUs, so you would pay $1,860. Or if you had 1 family, obviously $930. But that is the construction cost. That is what we proposed to the county. And also in the resolution, section 4. Section 4, sentence A is our current rate for the South and Center sewer districts at $354 annually. B is a rate of $364 that will be charged to the town of North Harmony Sewer District that we, the South and Center Sewer District, will be taking over with new infrastructure as part of this pump station. Their rate will be increased to $364 quarterly. They already had an established built sewer infrastructure. They were already discharging to the sewer districts. The only thing we're doing different for that sewer district is we're changing their discharge line from their pump station and updating their sewer, their wastewater treatment plant or wastewater pump station that they currently have and are utilizing. So that modification, their new rate will be $364. And then C is $930 for phase one. And D is $100 will be charged to all West Side phase one landowners with at least a 1/4 acre building lot with enough road frontage for a new house construction will be paid at $100 annually that are in the sewer district, phase one. So those are the costs in front of you for the resolution.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mr. Walsh. How many customers are actually will be affected on the phase one and then the total number of customers on the operation and maintenance?
So there's 300, well, there's going to be over 400 EDUs for phase one,
Phase
west
one,
side.
okay.
Yep.
Now then it says your operation and maintenance, all customers, how many customers will be involved?
So all customers, so currently we have about 5,000 customers in the South and Center Sewer District that currently pay $354
Okay.
annually for O&M.
All right, this is for my knowledge.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the phase one would pay the O&M and the infrastructure cost,
Thanks for that.
and that will not exceed $1,000.
Yeah, section 4, item D is, do you know how many roughly that would affect?
Off the top of my head, no, but I can certainly email you. I believe it's in the range, I think it's 80, in the range of 80 or so, but it's just a 1/4 acre or larger. So if you had a 25 acre plot, you'd only be charged $100. It's a 1/4 acre or larger. So I believe it's in the realm of 86. And there are some parcels that are right of ways that are very thin. They're just not suited. They're larger than a 1/4 acre, but they're not suitable for house construction.
Sure.
So all those are calculated and reviewed, but I believe the number is in the 80s.
When I see it says, obviously buildable vacant lots,
Yes.
separate parcels. So if someone has, it's a separate individual parcel. So it's looked at that it could be saleable as a building lot or
Correct.
eventually build it on. But
Certainly. And now, if you did have a separate lot that was a quarter acre or larger, and you had no interest in ever developing or sell that, you could merge your lots,
correct.
and that would diminish that cost, and then you would just pay your EDU.
That's correct. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I got one. And I don't know why anybody would ever do this, but could they pay that loan amount off?
No.
You have to do it annually. You can't
Correct.
pay it.
Correct. Yeah, and one thing that we explain to the customers that we will never pay that 0% interest off early. The only thing that we would do is revisit this probably, hopefully, in 5 to 10 years as the as the district number of EDUs grows, because now you're taking a building lot of an acre that would need a septic tank and a well and a leach field. Now you've reduced that. Now you've just created some building lots possibly. And so in the, let's just 5 or 10 years, we have an additional 25 to 50 EDUs. We could revisit this and possibly reduce the infrastructure payback and actually reduce the overall annual cost. So yeah, we would never pay this off early.
I have another question as well too. So you have this set number of customers who we have a set rate they're paying. If we lose customers, people move out or people move in, will that cost go up or go down depending on the number of residents and what they're
Well, there's probably a window. I mean, if we're talking 5, we wouldn't adjust it. If we start to move to 10 to 20, that's probably a conversation we're going to have.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution, amend 2023 budget to implement the new courthouse roof replacement project using funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Good morning. Tim Carr, Director of Public Facilities.
Morning, Josh Rothwell, Assistant Deputy Director, Public Facilities, Buildings and Grounds. This is just a amendment to the budget to add the ARPA funding into the account to have the courthouse roof replaced. The roof, current roof is 26 years old. Is no longer attached to the cement and concrete it doesn't have plywood. The building's so old, they actually put a concrete roof deck on there. And then they covered it with rubber roofing, and they used some sort of adhesive to hold that down, and it has come loose. This winter, we had Jamestown Roofing had to come in, put down turn bars on the roof because the air is getting underneath it, and it's actually blowing in the wind. When the wind blows in the right direction, it creates a wave effect. So that has caused tears in the roof. With the tears that we currently have in there, right now we have buckets up there catching water. So it's this is just to put the money in place for the to get the quotes and get the project taken care of this summer, hopefully.
That also includes, Josh, painting the dome and redoing the dome up top and everything also.
Yeah, part of the project too was the dome, the white on the dome. I don't know if anyone's looked up.
I've noticed it.
If you notice it's peeling.
Peely and
So the
has
roofing
been.
company actually makes a product. It's a 2-part epoxy. So they're going to pressure wash, take it back down, sand it, and then put the epoxy primer and then put the coating inside and out on the dome. So yeah, thanks Tim. There's also a railing inside there too that goes around. That's weathered, and they're going to wire wheel sand that and paint that as well. Probably not ever noticeable from the ground, but it's just maintaining our property.
So you're just asking for $1 million. You don't have a quoted price at this time?
It's 500,000.
There's 2 parts to the resolution. We have to establish a budget in the A fund and transfer it to the capital fund. So that's why it looks like it's $1 million, but the actual project cost is 500,000.
We obtained that budgetary quote from Garland Company. They're a company that's contracted to the state, and what they do is they're a co-op, and they do schools, other municipalities projects. They'll come in, assess the buildings, assess our facilities, see what's important, what needs addressed first, what doesn't, and then they also perform the service of putting it out to bid, providing the proposals, putting the whole project together, and saying this is what you need, which is great for the county because it takes a lot of that responsibility away from us. So say the project goes out to bid, contractor A gets the job, and OSHA shows up for safety violations. It's all on them. Down the road, if we have a leak, this roof comes with a 30-year watertight warranty and also a 30-year finish warranty on the color. So say in 10 years we have an issue, we call Garland, they call the contractor or the company, and they come and take care of the problem. So it's actually a pretty neat system in how they work.
Any other questions, comments? No, I agree. We need to fix the roof. So,
Yes.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next resolution is amend 2023 budget to implement the purchase of B&G equipment project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
This also falls along the lines of what Kathleen said. If you note in your sheets, it's double the money because they got to put it in and then take it out. So the total money being borrowed is half of what you see on your list. This also does the same thing, just transfers the funds. We're replacing a 2014 John Deere X710. That's the piece of equipment that we use for snow removal in the winter. It has a snow blower on it. It tows the salt spreader around on the sidewalks. The wiring harness is just corroded. We've been wiring and rewiring and put new fuse box in it, and we've done all kinds of maintenance to it. So that's part of it. We're going to take the current cab that we have on that tractor and mount it to the new one. And it also will come with a new deck, so that deck can be utilized on current equipment that we have. So we're going to take the snowblower off the mower and the cab, put it on the new one, and then also have the snowblower in the cab. Instead of purchasing a new one, we can reutilize those. It also includes 4 new vacuum cleaners, a 0-turn lawnmower, and this stuff's just needed. Equipment's getting worn out. We're over 700. We're right around 705 hours on that snowblower. So we're starting to get a lot of broken parts and downtime and things that really impact the ability to have the snow removed before staff shows up.
Will you be jumping onto a state bid or other bid process, or can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yes. So right now we currently have an agreement of service with LandPro, and that's where I obtained my quotes from. But our purchasing manager at DPF will put those out for bid for the best pricing. I just got quotes from them for the numbers that I presented to the ARPA committee, just for budgetary purposes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I just want to note that we did make an amendment to this resolution in the Public Facilities Committee. You will see right now in the budget amendment lines, there are 5 X's. This project has now been assigned a project code. So those X's in the final version should be replaced with 25265. And I neglected to mention the same topic in the previous resolution with the roof. The 5 X's were amended to be 25264.
Correct, and thank you. I was notified of that this morning, and it was, on my understanding, it was treated as a typo.
Typo, yeah, that's true. It was not officially an amendment.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next resolution is supporting passage of A 6581A and S 6626 an act to amend chapter 405 of the laws of 2007, amending tax law relating to increasing hotel motel taxes in Chautauqua County in relation to extending the expiration of such provisions, to repeal certain provisions of the tax law relating thereto, and providing for the repeal of certain provisions upon expiration thereof. I think based on the title, I could have expected a lawyer to be coming up to sit in front of us.
I didn't get all that. Could you repeat?
Thank you.
Patrick Sligo, County Attorney. So last month, I think you all recall that you passed a resolution requesting the extension of the occupancy tax. What happens once that passes is that our Assemblyman and Senator take that into consideration, and they hopefully put bills onto their respective floors, and that is what happened. So currently, both in the Assembly and in the Senate, there's bills on the floor. What's required is now that the legislatures pass a resolution supporting the bill that's on the floor. I note that there's a couple changes with what you requested and what is currently on the floor in the House and the Senate. The one change is, I believe we asked for the extension to 2026. The extension's currently proposed to be extended to 2025, the additional 2%. Also, there's some additional language that's been put in. One part says that at least half of the 3% shall be allocated for the official tourism promotion agency of the county for marketing, advertising, and promoting the county. That's some new language that's been added to that 3%. Again, speaking with the Assemblyman and reading what's proposed by the Senate, the idea is that the hotels and motels are collecting this money should really be used to promote and advertise for their businesses. And so this new language has been added. In addition, for the 2% for the waterways, there's a new provision that's added that says at least one half of that 2% shall be allocated for activities that control, treat, and or remove invasive or nuisance submerged aquatic vegetation, reduce harmful algae blooms, or provide shoreline cleanup. And that's already in that 2%. It's the language says that at least half of that amount has to go towards there. There was some conversations earlier this week with admin services about, well, that's not maybe what the legislature wants. Can we seek to amend that? Can we basically not pass this and see what happens? I had a good conversation with Assemblyman Goodell. For the House, obviously for a bill to become law, both the Assembly and the Senate have to pass similar resolutions. The Assembly has a rule that once there's a bill on the floor, home rule legislation, they need the county legislature to support the language that's in the bill. They have to match, then they'll vote, and hopefully the bill continues on. Should you seek to amend, say you wish to remove that additional language, you want to change the year to make it go out further, you'd have to amend, and then that goes to Assemblyman Goodell, and he'll consider whether or not to take up that amendment. If he decides to take up that amendment, obviously then there could be debate on that on the floor. We would have to, the legislature, the county legislature would have to then pass a resolution to match that language that then Assemblyman Goodell has changed. It becomes really a timing issue at this point because their session ends early June. There's just frankly not enough time to change this. Hopefully that he agrees and carries that change, that it's debated, amended, and then this body would have to meet again to pass a resolution to mirror that, and then they debate it again and go forward. The risk of changing, amending this is essentially you lose the 2% tax and all the funds. And then does it get taken up again when they reconvene the session would be up to them. My advice is, as county attorney, as legal counsel for this body, is that you pass this as been historically done to retain that 2%, and then going forward, the Assemblyman is indicated that he's open to hearing any concerns and looking at future amendments. But that's the real risk of not supporting this. And it's a function. And looking back historically, that's what's always happened is that the legislature makes resolutions extend the 2%. It gets carried by the Assembly and the Senate. And then the legislature here passes another resolution supporting what's on the floor so that it gets passed. It's a timing issue. I mean, I guess the question is, could we have done this whole process earlier? Historically, it's not. I'm sorry. That's not how it's been done. It's always been done in these phases, so that it's one of the last things they really kind of deal with before they end their session.
Thank you for that. Questions, comments?
Just one comment. I'm in favor of getting this passed ASAP. Now, if we were to make any changes, how many months down the road could we, or when's the next session that we'd be able to make any changes or increase?
I believe they talk in October.
The session ends June 8th, I think.
June 8th, right?
For the
Early
state.
June. So I mean, it's a time crunch.
This needs to be done. So
It's.
I want to lose that 2%. I don't want to lose that.
Speaking with Assemblyman Goodell, the addition to the 3%, the 1/2 must be allocated to the official promotional agency. He indicated to me that we're already about there, about 50% of that 3% is already going there. The issue, I think, comes with the 2%, really does need that half of it has to go towards, HABs and things of that nature. The idea and the consideration is they really don't want this money being used for administrative expenses. So there's going to be some budgetary things that are going to have to be adjusted because of this language.
Sure.
Okay, Patrick, so you just mentioned administrative expenses. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have a county employee that who's either part or most of his salary is paid from the 2% money?
I would defer to make it because I'm not sure the exact amount, but I believe
Yes, that
to be
is
true.
correct. The watershed coordinator's salary and benefits is paid from the 2%.
And Catherine, is it around $106,000?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, okay, so this would be a change, correct, Patrick?
Correct.
Okay, so this person's salary would not be paid out of the occupancy money. It would be paid from, I guess, from the county now.
I'll defer.
Okay.
Upon
Well,
the budgetary
assuming we keep the county employee, which I would believe we would, his salary would have to come out of the county funds then.
I would say that's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Because as Patrick,
why so?
right now our 2% occupancy tax budget for 2023 is $815,000. So as I understand Assemblyman Goodell's changes, half of that has to go to alga bloom waterways treatment. So that's approximately $400,000. So we would have $400,000 of the 2% monies to spend as we choose. If my interpretation is correct.
Didn't you say it wasn't supposed to be used for administrative costs though?
Well,
Patrick,
it's limited.
If I can chime in here, Legislator Nebel, the legislation states that the occupancy tax only 10% of the occupancy tax can be used for administration of the occupancy tax program. The watershed coordinator does not administer the occupancy tax program. The watershed coordinator administers the programs that are funded by the occupancy tax.
So in short, from that description is he cannot be funded any longer from this fund.
No, we still could.
That's not the conclusion that I draw.
No. Okay.
The watershed administrator does not administer the occupancy tax program. That's administered by finance and by legal.
Okay.
Two separate things.
Sure.
Okay, so in short, Pierre, he can continue to be funded out of the 2% money then?
That's Pierre's opinion, yes.
Per the language, I believe, as well.
And I would tend to agree with that. I know there's concern that the majority of the funds are, and this new language is designed to ensure that more of the money is going towards there. You know, the 10% is really for finance, for legal. I mean, you shouldn't be paying the attorneys $300,000 to monitor this. That's what I think the law is looking to avoid. But for the watershed coordinator to actually be implementing programs to tackle HABs and things of that nature, I would still find to be appropriate.
Waterways projects.
Correct.
Okay, so, okay, so your opinion, Patrick and Piers, is that we can continue to fund this position, the 106,000, out of the 2% waterways money?
Yes, I believe so. I mean,
Okay.
Yes.
Look, because I don't want to belabor the point, but if we can't, if we have to fund that position, the 106,000 out of county funds, okay, that's going to be an increase of approximately 1 cent on our tax rate. Okay, to me, there's a big difference as far as how this position is funded.
correct. I totally understand that. As the way I read the law and the way I interpret the position of that job is to implement the programs.
Okay.
And then you clearly need someone to run these programs. And
If that's the way it is, if we can continue to fund that position from the 2% money, I'm in favor of it. If not, I'm not.
Right.
Okay.
And just for the record, the 2023 budget for that position, including wages, benefits, contractual costs, it's $109,780. The budget was just under $106,000 in 2022.
Okay. Thanks, Catherine. I was off by 3,000.
I have to jump that to 2 cents per thousand.
Hopefully not.
Tom?
I'm all set. Favor.
Is the word changing? The word changing that was made from our assemblyman, was that the intent to have that position removed out of there? Or was it to just simply watch what we do for other, you're not in addition to other administrative fees, that's my
Yeah.
question.
Well,
Are we?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Dan. But I guess the discussion is that the administrative costs, we're coming more or less to limit those from the 3% rather than the 2%.
I can't speak as to the exact intent. My understanding is that they just really wanted and this came from both the Assembly and the Senate. I wanted
Understand.
To reduce the administrative costs.
Correct. And
Okay. All right.
Are
Mr.
we actually reducing administrative costs? Are we
I'd
going
be
to?
happy to comment on that, Mr. Chairman. In the occupancy tax exhibit that's in the adopted budget, we split out the administrative portion so that, so we have the administrative, we have the 3%, we have the 2%. And the 3 and the 2% are allocated after we take out the administrative portion. And the admin is the budget is $97,000. So it is definitely less than 10% of the total budget of almost 2 million. And that is allocated 85,000 to the finance department for staff to do the actual collection of the tax. And that also includes the anticipated purchase of occupancy tax software. And it does include $12,000 for the law department to research legal issues, questions on whether people are obligated to pay the tax.
As for the 3%, the additional language, I think you remember the last meeting, there's a lot of conversations amongst hotel motel owners about how does this money, the 3%, help them, contribute to them. And so my understanding is the design of this language in that 3% is to ensure that the money is going back to advertising, promoting our hotel motel industry.
As opposed to administrative costs.
Correct. It's a wide, if you look at the language, there's a lot of things that fall into that 3%, supporting, various different activities and stuff. my understanding is that they really want to make sure that summits, though, is being focused towards the promoting of the hotels and motels themselves, as opposed to just supporting events that could benefit hotels, motels.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add a follow-on comment that I understand the Assemblyman and the Senator's intent is that they would like to see as much of the occupancy tax used to benefit the tourism and the lakes and waterways of Chautauqua County. I certainly understand that intent. And this legislature will have the option or the opportunity when we review the 2024 budget to see what we can do to further the intent of the Assemblyman and the Senator to deploy the occupancy tax funds as best we can to benefit the tourism and the lakes and waterways of Chautauqua County. And the proposed amendment to the occupancy tax law is something that we can certainly work with to that end, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
I think it's my advice that, this body definitely talk about amending it in the future. At this point, because of the time issues I've said and the risk of losing that 2%, if we can't match what's on the floor in the Assembly and the Senate, it is why it's a pretty much it's a clean support resolution before you.
Sure. No, and I thank you, Pierre, for your comments. I agree. I am in favor of this resolution as it stands, and I think a point I wanted to get out of the discussion and conversation that we've been having is that we do have the opportunity as a county to review our budget of how we intend to spend this money and also what we're going to spend it on. And even if we wanted to, say, consider taking a portion of that person's salary out of this, a portion is a portion versus the whole thing. But that's something we can discuss at budget time. So we'll see what that would look like. But I just wanted to make sure that we're trying to really take into the consideration what our Assemblyman and Senator had in mind for this as well. It's they're passing it on, assuming that we're on board with what their vision is. They could choose not to pass this on, and if we say, well, we're going to keep it the way it is, then I think it's at least a look. So,
Mr. Chairman, yes, I understand there's an intent here on the part of the Assembly and the Senate. But look, I will support this as long as we're not prohibited from charging that our county employee's salary against the 2% money.
correct.
Okay, if I find out something different between now and next Wednesday, that's a different story. But currently, I'll support this.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I just wanted to put some numbers to the changes that Assemblyman Goodell is proposing. If you look at the 2023 budget, 50% of our 3% budget would be approximately $572,000. And as I understand the changes, they want half of that to go to the Tourism Promotion Agency. We currently budget $550,000 for CCBB. So we are very close on that requirement. And then on the 2% side, I'll defer to Mr. McCoy, but it looks to me, if we look at parts of that 2% budget that specifically pertain to waterways, we have an allocation to the Chautauqua Lake and Watershed Management Alliance. We have the Waterways Harvesting and Shoreline Cleanup line. And we also have all of the projects that the Watershed Administrator organizes and administers. Those three items total $587,000, and that's more than half of the 2% allocation. So if Dave has any things he wants to change on that, if I'm misinterpreting those three items, but it sounds like those three items would fall under the waterways requirement.
because, and it's correct that that new provision that half has to go towards the war. That's already in the law that's one of the things that you can fund with this 2%. And so it sounds as if we're already in line. I think that just these restrictions were put to ensure that that money was going there. So it sounds like there won't be any change to the budget at this point.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, there would, if we don't have, apparently we don't have to really do it this year, but there would be slight increase in what we allocate to CCVB. So we'd not be exactly in compliance based on our current budget, but really it's very close.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Yes.
Next resolution is supporting passage of A 6692 and S 6206, an act to amend the tax law in relation to extending the authorization for Chautauqua County to impose an additional 1% rate of sales and compensating use taxes.
Patrick Slago, County Attorney. Just as the previous resolution, last month you passed the resolution to extend the additional 1% sales tax. The Senate and Assembly have taken that up, and the reference bills are on the floor. And just as the previous resolution we discussed, this resolution essentially supports the extension of that. I note that in Administrative Service Committee, I did make two corrections. I'll note that in the second whereas clause, it should read November 30th, 2025. The bills that are currently on the floor are extending it for 2 years to 2025, not 2026. And under the second whereas clause, number 1, that would also read November 30th, 2025. I think this body had talked about last month extending it to 2026. Historically, it looks like we've generally done a 3-year extension. The bills on the floor this year are 2-year extensions to 2025. So I just want to reference that.
Will that be treated as like a typo then?
Yes.
Questions, comments?
Dan, just one.
Sure.
Oh, okay, Patrick, so the current sales tax, 7%, 4% goes to the state, 3% to the counties. So this would raise the county share to 8%. Well, okay, 4%, a total of 8% sales tax. Correct?
Would continue.
Well,
Continue,
okay,
yeah.
okay, I didn't mean raise, but continue.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an additional. It would continue the 1% we've had for many years. At this
Okay.
point.
Could we, because years from now, if somebody's reading this, they don't know what the sales tax is going to be. Is there any way we can include some language to have in effect that we will be continuing if we extend the additional 1% sales tax, that we will continue to have a 8% sales tax in Chautauqua County?
I could
Is
always
that-
modify the language to reference that, and I say lawyers generally don't reinvent wheels. This is historically the same resolution.
This is a template that we've
It's a
used
template,
for
and
years. But I'm just
Right.
saying that, if somebody's looking at the Journal of Proceedings years from now, I'd like them to be able to. What's
We're
that?
always reading that, Terry.
Well, Dan is.
Okay.
Not so much me, but yeah, I'll bet you did. I just wondered if.
The point's well taken. I could always adjust to ensure that, and perhaps in the future I could amend that.
You wanna
It's,
get out here for you.
All right.
I essentially took
Okay.
the template that was used last in
Okay.
2020 before that, and made the necessary updates to it. But,
All right. Okay. No.
it's a
Okay,
it's a system
it's-
I'm learning that essentially it's an odd system where you pass the first resolution last month. I mean, then it goes up to our elected officials. Then now we pass this template resolution that goes up, and And actually, next month I'll be coming with a third resolution on this matter to implement this.
Okay, I'm fine with this. I've been here before when we've extended this, but I think possibly going forward, maybe we should have some language in there to indicate what the current sales tax is
Absolutely.
once an extension is made.
Definitely.
Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Next resolution is authorize agreement with various school districts for school resource officer services 2023 to 2024.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Rich Telford, Chautauqua County Undersheriff. This resolution is to enter into contracts with several school districts in Chautauqua County to provide a school resource officer for the 2023-2024 school year. Those schools being Brockton, Frewsburg, Pine Valley, Silver Creek, Forestville, and Bosse's. For Bosse's, we provide 2 deputies that cover 3 campuses. We have a full-time deputy at the Maple Avenue Casadega Bosse's, and a second deputy splits time between Asheville and Fredonia Bosse's. The cost of these contracts is capped at $104,125 for the school year. All of these schools currently have an SRO and basically are a renewal for another school year.
Would it be the sheriff's position to say that they would agree with having an officer in school locations or disagree?
Ideally, and I think I'm safe speaking for the sheriff that if we could have one in every school in the county, we would. We feel it is a positive program. And anytime I'm asked about it or speak about it, I don't look at it as a security or, very few arrests come out of school resource officers. I know a lot of people have a concern about that. And I said yesterday during public safety, my focus is on the word resource. They are a resource for the students, for the staff. Yes, sometimes they make arrests. Sometimes they are speaking to different classes. They are another ear for students to come to, for parents to come to. The interaction with school children and law enforcement, I think is great. So it's
Rich, it's also public relations as far as the sheriff's department is
absolutely, and it puts a different light on, not to be afraid of law enforcement. One of my pet peeves is when you see a parent out and child might be misbehaving and they say, that police officer is going to take you away. No, we're not. Don't scare the kids.
Rich Telford is going to take you away.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take him for ice cream.
Okay,
So
there you go.
No, we think it's a very valuable, program, and we're glad to have as many as we have right now.
I'm sure that's probably a statewide thought across the sheriffs across the state. Is there any sort of push to have that statement and idea from the sheriff's organizations for the state to consider for when they're, is there some way that's being portrayed from the sheriff's departments to the state for when they're considering school budgets and school board policies and rules and things of that nature?
I don't know how much the State Sheriff's Association pushes that. They do support this program. The State Sheriff's puts on a school resource officer school a couple times a year. And I remember about a year ago, I was asked, there was a state politician in Buffalo that introduced legislation for more funding for school resource officers. I have not seen or heard an update on that. So I don't know if it's currently on the floor if it got voted down. You know, I do believe, because several, you know, sheriffs across the state are in the same boat we are with supplying school resource officers. So I know it's supported. I don't know how much the state sheriffs, you know, are actively pushing it in Albany, but it's worth asking about.
Thank you.
I have one, I just have one question. Mr.
Yes.
Tupper. The $104,000 salary,
Yes.
that's with the county. Is there any outside funding, like, let's say from Seneca Nation, because of the proximity to the reservation, the number of students enrolled in Silver Creek Forestville? Do they contribute anything to the county for the resource officer?
Not directly to the county. My understanding is they, and I don't want to speak, I believe that they contribute to the school districts, which in turn come back to us because we do have one in Silver Creek and Forestville, but directly from the Seneca Nation or any outside entities, no. It's our contracts are with the school directly.
Okay, so the money they are contributing, how is that spent within the county? Does that go into a separate fund? Does it go to offset the budget, your budget?
Yes, basically it offsets the cost for that deputy at the school. And this is the closest figure. It comes into the sheriff's revenue, which offsets their pay. And honestly, does every single SRO make and all of their benefits come to that exact amount? No. But it's as close that we can
There's
get.
some vehicle expense in there too.
There's a vehicle expense, you know, their health insurance, their unemployment. You know, we try to calculate all the costs involved with that. You know, and like I said, because we have different deputies at different steps in the contract, one may be a little bit higher, one might be a little bit lower. This, and it's no secret, what we do is our deputy contract has 9 steps in their contract. We take a step 4 salary. And we also take a family of 2 insurance. So we're kind of right down the middle and incorporate all the retirement costs, the taxes, everything that comes to us. And that's where we come up with the $104,000 figure.
Is that a realistic figure, or is that just, I mean?
I think it's realistic. I think it's as realistic as, short of doing individual paycheck by paycheck amounts for each individual deputy. I think this is as close as we can get.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
I remember from 5 years ago, this number was 78,000, and then it actually were losing money. You know, the county was actually, it was costing them to have the SROs versus, you know, and we were charging for it. It just was inaccurate. So they've really spent a lot of time, I know, and it shows because this number's gone from the high 70s to 104. So,
Richard, I was just wondering, do you mandate that your deputies wear body armor while they're on duty at the school?
Not necessarily at the school. Most of them choose to. And I think some of them also are, depending on the events, you know, but we don't necessarily mandate that they wear that body armor at the school.
I just say I support the SRO program completely, and I want to, I would like to see that list of schools be a lot more in our county, just because of the resource aspect inside. And I'd like to, I think it would be good that the sheriff's departments across the state push for that. But
Well, and just one last comment, and this came up last night, Rich, at
Yes.
Public Safety, but even if we had every school in the county apply to have a school resource officer, we couldn't necessarily supply that at this time because because of the experience and training that it takes, and also not everybody wants to be a school resource officer.
That is true. We actually had another school district approach us within the last month or two inquiring about
Yeah.
adding next year. We asked our current staff who was interested in maybe being a school resource officer. And from a management standpoint, there's two things that we want to avoid. We want to avoid forcing somebody into this position. We want somebody who wants to be in the school. We feel that if we force somebody to go into a school when they don't want to be, that the program is going to be a failure. They're not going to be engaged. They're not going to want to be there. They're going to sit in their office. They're not going to be out in this, walking the hallways. The other thing that we try to avoid, and it's kind of based on past experience, is we did have one or two very young deputies show an interest in being an SRO. Both of them were still on probation. We experimented with that a few years ago, and for a variety of reasons, it wasn't the best decision to have a brand new deputy who is still learning the ropes of law enforcement in general be put in the school to handle a lot of unique situations. And then we had some adverse effects when we brought them out of the school, put them back on road patrol. So, even if we were approached by more schools, as of right now, we're not comfortable filling those positions. But
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next proposed resolution is amend 2023 budget to implement the UTV tracked emergency response vehicle project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
Noel Gutman, Director of Emergency Services. So before you is a resolution to purchase a tracked UTV for our office to use. This project kind of was born out of the rescues that happened up in Buffalo in the winter storms last year. We saw that the only vehicles that were able to get around in that type of environment were the tracked UTVs and ATVs, and they did quite a lot of rescues. It was a situation where the storm created a situation that ambulances and other vehicles were impassable on the roads. This would be a way for us to have some resources to combat that and deal with that scenario. It would also be it's going to be a year-round vehicle available to, for any of the fire departments, all of our special teams, any law enforcement agency would feel they would need that resource. So it's really a multi-purpose tool that we're looking to purchase.
Sounds good to me. Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next resolution is amend 2023 budget to implement the Class B foam project for county fire departments using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
So this project was, we have a situation nationwide with the firefighting foam has been found to have the PFAS in it, which is for lack of a better term, we call it the bad foam now. The state has says, it's illegal to use it for training. We can't buy that type of foam. I don't think manufacturers are even allowed to make it anymore. So the industry has come up with what they're calling universal green foam. It's more environmentally friendly, does the same job, just works just a little slightly different. This project is to try and to purchase foam and put it in the hands of all the fire departments. So our 42 fire departments that wish to have some. That exact number might vary by the departments. Some departments have a higher need for, like, the I-90 corridor between Route 5, the railroad tracks, Interstate 90, 5 and 20, your I-86, Route 60. Those obviously have higher vehicle traffic, and Class B foam is used for fighting hydrocarbon and polar solvent fires, oil trucks, gas trucks, those type of vehicles. So those roads have a higher route of vehicles traveling those. So those departments might get a few more than your other departments that use it. But every department does have a use for this, and it was our intention to help departments by showing them getting them going in the right direction, getting this foam in their hands. This would be a one-time disbursement to them. It does not include taking back the old foam. There's different avenues the state is looking at trying to make that happen. And we're not buying any equipment for the departments to use the foam. Departments would already have that. Any department that has foam equipment, this will work with that existing equipment.
Questions, comments? Pretty straightforward. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next resolution is amend 2023 budget to implement the dive truck replacement project using funding from American Rescue Plan Act.
So the current dive truck it's at least a 17-year-old ambulance that was taken out of service by a local department and was purchased by emergency services many years ago to act as a dive vehicle for their equipment and to tow the boats. Unfortunately, they've taken you for many years. This is the second or third ambulance I'm aware of that's been put into that role. They've adapted a vehicle for a job it was never meant to do, but it worked, for the time. The current ambulance that's in service up there on the hill, the guys don't even like driving it right now because the brakes are questionable. So we really don't use it at this point. We're looking to purchase essentially be a 1-ton, crew cab pickup truck. Not a specialized fire vehicle, not like an armored vehicle, anything like that. It's just gonna be a utility pickup truck that'll carry the needed equipment and be able to safely tow any of our vessel needs that we have or will have in the future, and just be a safer way for our dive team to respond throughout the county.
That tracked vehicle, is that able to be put on a trailer? Would it be used for towing something like that also?
No, that the UTV would be on a trailer for deployment. But this truck could tow that. That's, we have several trailers, so this truck would be, again, a force multiplier to tow any of the trailers we have.
If it's available.
Yep. But this truck would be to replace that existing vehicle with the old hand-me-down ambulance.
Yeah, no, understood. It's we're been fortunate we haven't had any issues with the way we've been doing things, and that's what this American Rescue Plan Act money is for kind of what this is for. So I agree. Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The next resolution is amend 2023 budget to implement the Building Emergency Alert System project using funding from the American Rescue Plan Act.
So this is a project to help enhance the safety of our buildings with our large populations of employees here in Mayville, the Jamestown campus. This is a cell phone based app system that in the event of a various types of emergency, this is a free download on the app for any employee could put on their phone. And when that app would be opened up, there's basically like 5 buttons on it. The first one, it says like active shooter. It's just the term. If you press and hold that button for 1 second so it doesn't get an accidental activation, it dials 911 and sends a message to everybody that has that app on their phone that's in the geofenced location. So when we set this system up, this Mayville campus would be on a map, would have a geofence around it. Everybody that's in that fence with that app on their phone would then get that message that, hey, there's this hostile event going on, as well as the person calling it would dial 911. There's other buttons on there for like a medical emergency. So when we set this app up, we could say everybody that's CPR, AED trained, or an EMT in the building, when someone says, right now there's an medical emergency, someone would open that app, hit that button, it would call 911 and send a message out system-wide to everyone in that geofence that, hey, there's a medical emergency here. Another nice feature about it is there's a fire alarm. So now someone could log into that system and say, oh, everyone's clear to go back to work, hit that message and send it out to everyone in that geofence system. Another nice feature about this also is it's not just for the people that have the app. So we'll be able to put a posting downstairs in our public entranceways. When on this facility, text 12345 for emergency notifications while you're in this building. So anybody coming onto our facility would be able to get an emergency message if it went out while they're on the campus. So it's another way that we could not only reach out to safety of our employees, but to everyone that's visiting our buildings.
Are you aware of any potential savings that the county would have from having this such system, meaning in response to an insurance reduction or
I am not.
cars with security systems, etched glass, blah, 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 has, gets
Right.
a savings?
I am not
I'm
aware of any of
curious.
that. I'll ask the vendor that I've been talking to if he's aware of anything like that. I can also I'll ask Dennis Brooks, maybe he'll have an avenue to look out on there. I mean, this is to supplement. I know our phone system has the panic buttons, which is a system has been working well, but this is to supplement that, just to try and add another layer of safety.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next proposed resolution is to accept New York State Department of Health Strengthening Infrastructure Workforce and Data Systems Grant.
Good morning.
Morning.
Dr. Mike Falk, Chautauqua County Chief Medical Officer and Interim Public Health Director. We at the Health Department have expressed interest in and have been offered grant funding from the CDC through New York State to strengthen public health workforce and foundational capabilities. The purpose of the grant is to address longstanding weaknesses due to chronic underinvestment in New York's public health system and strengthens preparedness to address new challenges and future public health emergencies. The grant is a total of $750,000. We have expressed interest in receiving that grant funding over a 5-year period, so $150,000 and change per year. The uses of the grant may be used to strengthen the public health workforce through hiring of public health positions, supporting retention of current staff, which is really what we're focusing on, making upgrades to the workplace to increase employee satisfaction, providing public health training, and providing public health support services to the public health department. When we look at the short-term outcomes of this grant funding, it's really looking to include improvements in the local health department workforce to either hire new or vacant positions, and we'd have several vacant positions right now that we have not decided to refill at this point. And really focusing on retaining current staff through various investments or services, or improving foundational public health capabilities through training and other staffing enhancements. So when we talk about investing in staff retention efforts, these could include, and this is allowable within the grant, to include retention bonuses, base pay increases, tuition assistant, staff training opportunities, which would include travel to conferences and events, or other retention efforts. It would also allow us to invest in office upgrades to increase employee satisfaction with the workplace environment. Certain examples would include minor alterations, repairs, purchasing updated furniture, equipment, Wi-Fi expansion, and implementation of software and technology solutions, all of which we really do need. So we have, what we have started to focus on really is looking at current staff whose grant funding is running out. We have one or two individuals, one of which is whose grant funding is running out this year, a talented individual doing a lot of our data analysis for the health department. And it seems as though we may be able to use this grant to continue funding that position whose funding will be running out. So we're really focusing more on retention of current staff as opposed to hiring new staff. And then, all the things that I mentioned in regards to, creating a better work environment, workspace, upgrades in equipment, and things like that.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question as well. I understand wanting to retain. I mean, it's important to maintain those people, especially quality people. Do you have a lot of vacancies currently that would this help with any vacancies if needed? If you needed?
Yeah, we have, off the top of my head, we have 2 nurse positions, community health nurse positions that have remained vacant for a long time. Part of that is the national nursing shortage, workforce shortage, partly and also partly due to the fact that we're probably not offering a competitive wage with the county for nurses, at least in this high demand environment that we're in nationally. We also have our epidemiologist position that was vacated by Bree Agate last year. That position is vacant. It's not currently listed. We're waiting until we really kind of further assess our situation with our leadership and our structure. We also have a junior planner position that was vacated by one of our other nurses, Shelley Wells. That position is currently vacant, but not listed yet.
Okay. So could some of this money be used to like incentivize or to get people to wanna come in?
It's certainly possible. I think what we're really trying to focus on right now is, and I should mention, and I mentioned this yesterday, we have all of these positions that I mentioned are already budgeted for. We also had budgeted for a deputy public health director. We have conducted interviews. We have a very well-credentialed, very strong candidate who has accepted an offer for the position. Once that's official, we will announce that to all of you and the public. But I think what we're really wanting to do when the deputy public health director comes in, we're really taking a look at the leadership structure and really prioritizing. We're in the midst of rebranding and really looking to see, where we are headed with this health department into this year and the next several. And so I haven't been really in a hurry to refill some of these vacancies quite yet until I kind of wrap my head around everything that's been going on with the health department over the last couple of years. So, yeah, as far as the incentives, there are options, right, within this grant to increase, base salaries and things like that. One of the ideas was to perhaps increase, the all of the public health staff, 80 employees outside of management are 35-hour a week employees. An idea was brought across to say, hey, maybe we increase it to a 37.5 and it would be fully funded with this grant. It may be a logistical nightmare to try to do that, but those are some of the things that we're talking about, and that may incentivize people coming in to take some of these vacancies.
Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay,
Terry?
but Mike, if we did that, if we went to 37.5 when this grant ends, then we would possibly revert back to 35.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
there could be some problems with doing that.
We're really leaning, I think, away from that at this
Okay.
point. There's just some of the ideas that we've thought about. But I think our primary focus right now is to
Retention.
retain, those that are losing grant funding. Yeah, I think that's our biggest
Well,
priority right now. So
Okay, well, this is a 5-year grant. It's for 800,000. That's a sizable grant. So if you would convey our thanks to whoever was in your department that person or persons that obtained this grant.
yeah, we'll do. I will. Absolutely. And we will bring back further details, once we have
Yep.
approval through the state as far as allowable expenditures and that kind of thing. So,
Get more information from the
Yep.
state.
yeah.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Falk. You might be here for the next one. The next resolution is amend 2023 budget for chief medical officer.
That's Kathleen.
I'm Kathleen Dennison, Budget Director, but I am speaking today as the Interim Director of Administrative Services for Departments of Health and Human Services. And actually, before I talk about this resolution, I did send an email to Dennis Brooks about the chairman's question about insurance for the emergency alert system. And his response is that it most likely it would not reduce our insurance premiums. But he said he does have a meeting today with one of our insurance companies, so he will ask the question.
Doesn't hurt to ask that question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So looking at the resolution that you have before you, there have been a lot of changes in personnel recently with the restructuring of the health, human services, and mental hygiene departments. And so there are quite a few staff changes that are different from what is in the budget. And so I put all of those changes together, and the good news is that overall, right now we're projecting that those staff changes would result in a savings to the county of approximately $120,000. That's mostly because the position formerly held by Commissioner Schuyler is vacant. So as I said, we do project an overall savings, but with the creation of the chief medical officer position, that salary needs to be allocated to the 4 departments in which the chief medical officer spends his time. And 2 of those departments are relatively small, the coroner's office and emergency medical services. So when allocating that position to those departments, I project that they would be over budget if the budget were not amended. So that is why you're seeing an increase in the personal services and employee benefits for those 2 departments. And that increase is offset by a decrease in salaries and benefits in Social Services Administration.
Committee questions, comments? I just want to thank you for your work in this department and on these accounts. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is actually something that former Director Liss and I have been working on for several months. We finally got the whole picture together. So I want to give Val some credit because, as I said, she and I did this together until about a month ago. So
thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next proposed resolution is amend 2023 adopted budget due to office relocations in the city of Dunkirk.
As you can see in the resolution, we did adopt in a prior resolution a lease agreement for the space on Lucas Avenue in Dunkirk, and are going to move staff from the North County office building to that facility. So if you look at the lease overall, it results in a savings to the county of about $100,000 a year, just comparing the lease expense between the 2 properties. However, there is a significant amount of build-out expense that is taking place now, and that build-out is going to be paid over 12 months. So in the next 12 months, we will incur additional expense, but as I said, we will save money in years 3 through 10 of the lease. So this resolution amends the budget to, first of all, establish a new sub-department for the new building on Lucas Avenue. Buildings and grounds, all of the leases are paid through the Buildings and Grounds organization, and they do have separate sub-departments for each building. So there is no budget currently for the Lucas Avenue facility. So we're increasing a budget there and then decreasing the budget for the North County office building. You will see a use of fund balance because in this current year, we we will have additional expense beyond what was budgeted for the lease at the North County office building. And as I said, that use of fund balance will effectively be paid back in future years. The other thing that's not in this resolution is that we are allowed to claim our expenses for facilities. So we will get some state aid for that build out portion, but it's very difficult to calculate exactly what that state aid will be. So there will be some increase in revenue associated with the build out expenses, but I just don't know what it is. So I did not include that in the equation at this time.
Questions, comments for? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Final resolutions today is amend 2023 budget to accommodate acquisition of nearshore cleanup equipment.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dave McCoy. I am the Chautauqua County Watershed Coordinator. This resolution is it dates back to a resolution that the legislature approved in November of 2022, that being the purchase of lake maintenance equipment using occupancy tax funds. Purchase was directed at improving conditions in the South Basin, particularly for the revenue generators, one of which is the Chautauqua Harbor Hotel. We've never used occupancy tax funds to purchase equipment. Our GL reflects a contractual expense in point 4. This resolution is simply changing that to reflect the equipment expense as a point 2. And that's all.
That's enough.
Questions, comments? You've been sitting here all morning. I was expecting at least you'd have one question or comment. So I thank you for being patient and being here all morning and listening to the entire meeting. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have no other resolutions. Is there anything under other that anyone would like to discuss?
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Not hearing any, I would entertain a motion to adjourn if anyone would be so willing to provide one.
I'll make that motion.
In a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if the legislators could stay for a few moments, the county executive wants to update us on a very pressing matter.